Just met
Okay, so as I said, we'll work on some more select statements. Things that I've seen missing in the assignment 2, I'll kind of tell them to you so that you don't make those mistakes in your midterm. We'll do more of select statements. I'll introduce you to a new data type, date, today, and we'll do updates and deletes, right? So as I said, as I was mentioning, since not everybody was here, your midterm is next week. So either Monday or Friday, I'll let you know by Friday for sure. Depends upon how much I can cover by Friday.
Is there going to be like anything to review or anything like that?
Whatever we are doing is what is reviewing, right? And it will be exactly like you did your in-class assignment. The format will be, you'll use your laptops. No internet access will be allowed. Whichever room you are in, depending upon, I'll get it monitored by the IT to see that there is no internet access, except, of course, the SQL manual. If you require to go to the SQL manual, that's fine. You won't, but that's okay. So even only that site and Blackboard will be allowed. So that's where you will be able to go. You can bring your notes if you like. You can bring your book. You can bring your previous examples, assignments, whatever. As long as it is your work and you're honestly doing it, it's perfectly fine by me. Okay. So depending upon where you are, definitely you will have to kind of spread out a little and not sit with somebody, but that's the requirement. So it's entirely up to you and your honesty, and I'll take your word for it. Okay. Sorry?
I don't have honesty. Sorry.
I'm sure everybody does. I'm sure you do Matt. Okay, so let's look at this. If not, you'll come here and sit by me here, and I'll keep an eye on you. Okay, so let's look at what we are doing. We're again trying to create a script. We are still using only creating a table. With time, we will go to more than one table, right? So our database will have more than one tables. But here again, as we did last week, I'm going to create a database, and in that table therein, that stores information about employees. I'll query the data. Select statements are called querying, right? You're querying something, you're trying to find out something, and also perform updates and deletes in the table. So I should be able to change a record. So that's called update. I should be able to delete records. Definitely. How do you add? You've already learned how to add new records by the insert statement. So insert lets you add records. There is an update statement that allows you to update fields in record or records. And then there is the delete verb, which allows you to delete. And select allows you to do selection, right? So we are basically doing CRUD. We should be able to create, read, update, and delete. Those are the 4 operations you should be able to do on records in a table or more than one tables. Okay, so right now at line number 11, you haven't seen this statement. You can ignore it for a while now, but it will be required again. Depends on every time I upload WAMP, I download WAMP server and install it on my machine. New features are added. New features means they have changed the environment. So I kind of always say, okay, I'll take care of my environment, and I don't rely on either my local machine or wherever it will be run in future. So we'll talk about 11. 10 definitely, if you remember, is to set your SQL mode, the environment. It allows 2 things. 1, your not null becomes operative. And 2, I found out, I was working with something the other day. If you don't have strict all tables and you give, suppose your varchar is 20 and you give 40 in it. What it will do is it will take the first 40 and it will just ignore the last 20. It doesn't tell you that it is an error. It just does it. But if I say strict all tables, if I make a mistake like that, then it gives an error. So I think it's much better to know that you've made an error, though just saying, oh, I gave Anju Chawla, only Anju was saved. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that strict all table does with varchar types. With numbers, of course, if you have decimal 4,1 and you give something like 0.56, it will remove the 6. It just keeps the 5. We already know that, but with varchar, if I don't have this, it does it for varchar also. So depending upon what you want, sometimes programmers will not make it strict all tables just because if more data is entered, they want to ignore it, and that works fine too. So it's not a rule. It's not a rule that you have to have these set statements and you should always set it according to what I'm saying. It will depend upon the application you are writing. Okay. So we'll talk about 11 when I come to updates. For now, it's there, so let it be there, but I'll show it to you when I come to update statements. The 3 statements at 14, 16, and 18 you've seen before. But today I'll tell you that if you do not put the use statement, there is another way you can work with it. You always have to use the database. There's no doubt about it. But there is another way of doing it. And I'll show you that another way. The drop table is absolutely useless for us because we are dropping the database. Again, it just sits there for your information so that you don't forget it when asked. Now notice something, when I create a table, I've kind of, instead of only mentioning the table name, I've said database name dot the table name. Now, if you, every time, wherever you use a table name, if you qualify it with your database name, then you can go get away with the use statement. Then you don't have to write use my database. So if you remove the use statement, which you can, then you have to qualify the table name everywhere you use it in your script. Some programmers don't mind it. Why? For the simple reason, and it's very valid, if they're working with more than one databases at a time, for a table from one database, another table from another database, and so on, then they can't keep saying use this. Oh, now use this, now use this. So instead of using the use statement and keep changing databases, all they do is they qualify their table name. So you can say database name 1 dot table name, database name 2 dot table name, database 3 dot table name, then you don't have to use them. The rule still stays. You have to use a database before you can do anything in the table, but this allows you qualification. So you're qualifying it. You're saying I'm picking up the table employee from the DB employee database. So that's an option. So if you want to go that route, it's up to you. I am just sticking to use because I only have one table and I'm only have one database. I mean, I'm not writing a big application or anything, but you should know that it exists, right? So it does exist. So you can remove line number 18 if you like. You can comment it out. But then everywhere where you're using table employee, you have to qualify it with the database name. That's a rule there. And if you want to go that route, sure. I was just lazy, but I wanted to tell you that it exists. So maybe in a smaller script, I'll do that. But the option is available. And it's not a big thing. You can always do a Control F and replace all and it will work. All you have to do is you have to just comment this out and do it. Okay. Now, we've already talked about all these fields except date. So small int for employee numbers are not very, they don't work with tiny ints. 0 to 256 will not work. Small int works. Usually, I'm only thinking my employee number in Georgian College. But small, if you need int, you will go with int. I went with small int. We haven't used it before. And I thought it was enough for at least Georgian College employees. Unsigned because employee numbers are, it's like your student number, right? We have an employee number too. And of course, it is unsigned. The employee name, the name of the employee, varchar 40. Again, I've said it is not null. Please notice the use of primary key to refresh your memories. What is a primary key? A primary key is a field which is unique and not null. So in your table, a particular employee number can only occur once, which makes sense. Like student numbers are unique, so are employee numbers. And of course, it cannot be null. Because this is the field with which I am identifying a record. So how can it be empty? How will you identify something if you don't know its key? Right? So it's like a key to a door. If you don't have the key to a door, how will you enter the room? So therefore, it is called the primary key. So instead of saying unique, not null, I'll use primary key. And for your information, you should know that this table is in the first normal form. So first normal form table says, I have a primary key. You will say, what is this normal form she's talking about? When you design a database and design tables in a database, there is a lot of effort that goes in. It's just not as easy as, oh, this is the table, these are the fields. You have to design it. Which tables will be present in my database? What will be the fields in my database? How will one table be related to the other tables in my database? And this is called designing a database. So database designer is a different job from a database programmer. So we are learning to be database programmers, right? But you should know that I'm not going to teach you the database designer course, but every table has to follow some rules. And this is the minimum. When I say minimum, like the first normal form. So a table is said to be in the first normal form if it has a primary key, and my table has one. And there is an additional thing also, which we'll talk about. Every field that you see should be atomic in nature. Atomic means cannot be broken down. A very good example of a non-atomic field is the favorite sites. I asked you when I said, what are your favorite sites? Some could have 2, 3, 4, 5. So how will I decide how many do I put in that favorite field? Should I go 100 chars, 200 chars, 500 chars? So I have repeating information, more than one sites, and it's repeating information. So we say that a table is in the first normal form if it has a primary key and every field is non-atomic, as atomic in nature, cannot be broken down, right? Atom means cannot be broken down. Or there are no repeating data in a field. That's another way of saying it. There is no repeating data in the field, Okay, so when I come across an example, I'll show you it's not in the first normal form. This one is in the first normal form. I have a key, and notice every field is atomic in nature. You could argue employee name can be broken down into first name and last name. But you know what? Name is not repeating. It's not saying Anju Chawla, Anju Chawla, Anju Chawla. That's what repeating is. It's saying a first name and a last name. So you could say, but that's not atomic. You can break it down. On the other hand, it depends upon the application. When I say cannot be broken down, I'm saying or need not be broken down. So I could keep it as one employee name if I require, or I could have employee first name and employee last name. So you decide depending upon the application. If it is a bank application, I would go last name and first name differently. But if it is an application for a pizza shop, I'll say, oh, the name doesn't matter. I can put it as one field. You know what I mean? So it depends on the type of application you are writing. So a table is said to be in the first normal form if it has a primary key and every field is atomic in nature. When I say atomic in nature, it means it cannot be broken down or need not be broken down into further fields. Address is another example. Sometimes you will notice when you fill up forms on the web, sometimes they'll give you one address field and you have to fill in everything there. But sometimes they'll say street, your house number, your street number, your city, your country, and they've broken it down. Why? It depends upon how they're saving the data. They may be looking for people only in Barrie, so they have put the city separately. So that's how it works. So depending upon whether it can be broken down or needn't be broken down is something, but there should be no repeating groups. So here everything looks okay to me. So employee number, single field, cannot be broken down. Employee name, I chose it not to be broken down. Job description, every person is only on a job in the college. I mean, if I'm a professor, I'm a professor. But again, if there were more than one jobs, then I would say job description 1, and I would have another field, job description 2. I wouldn't put them together. Otherwise, it will become a repeating field. I'm talking about the job description of the same person. My field is okay. I'm only working with one. Manager number, every employee only has a manager. Hire date is a date field that's new for you. We'll talk about it in a minute. Salary is atomic in nature, and so is commission, right? Now, this commission I added. So this is basically a salesperson, right? So a salesperson has a salary and also gets commission based on how much he or she sells. The new field that you see here is small int, which is not a big deal. Like a tiny int is just a bigger field, right? The unsigned goes from 0 to 32768, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So 32K, which is good enough, right? Employee name is a varchar, you're aware of it. Job description varchar 20 is good enough. Please do not make fields varchar if it doesn't make sense. For example, ice. If a drink has ice, which is only Y or N, why would you write it as varchar 10? Or why would you even write it as varchar 1? Because it's not varying. It's not 0 or 1. It's always 1. So go with char where you know that's what it will work for, and go with varchar only if it is required. And again, the sizes are important. I went with name as 40. Some people will argue 50. Not a bad deal, but 200, of course, or 100 is too much. Okay, so a little variation can do. Job description, I just went with 20 because my data was simple. Clerk, system analyst, manager, things like that. So I stuck with 20. It could be more. It could be around 40 or 50. Salary, I decided to go 7, 2 places after decimal, 5 before decimal. We are talking about yearly salary here. And then commission is based on salary or on the sales a person does. Again, I stuck with this with DEC 7, 2. Commission could be less. I thought it could be as people who are in sales earn their main salary is their commission. I went with a default of 0 for commission. Managers don't have a commission. They're not salesmen. Clerk will not have a commission because they're not salesmen. Depending upon the job description, we need it or we don't need it. I didn't say not null here, so you could put a null value. And null says, oh, there is no commission. A 0 commission says this person didn't earn a commission. A null commission says this person is not eligible for a commission. So there are two different things. One says it is 0. That means he didn't get anything. One says it's not even defined. A manager doesn't have a commission. A clerk doesn't have a commission. This is new. What is date field now? As the name suggests, there is a date. There is also a date time for your information. I've stuck with date. I only am interested in date, higher date. The time was not important to me. The date field, as the name suggests, is a date in the format of 4Ys dash month dash dt. Now, there are two ways in which you can input data for a date. And it's not text. Please keep in mind, date is a different field. So when I put it in single quotes, don't assume, oh, it's text. I can talk to it as if it is text. I can do like with it and so on. Don't do it. It's not text. You may get away with it in MySQL, but Oracle won't let you get away with it. DB2 may not let you get away with it. So learn the right way. So this is one format. I can save my dates in 4 Ys, double Ms, double Ds separated by dash. And I think MySQL also allows slashes and in quotes, single quotes. That's one way of doing it. The other way that you can save a date is like a number. So in a number, you don't have the dashes. You go YYYYMMDD and no quotes. So if that works for you, that's absolutely fine. To me, this seems more easy to read. So I stick with this, but you can use it as a big number. 4 Ys, 2 Ms and 2 Ds as one big number. And that works fine too. So both two formats are allowed, one with the dash and I think also with the slash, and one as a number without quotes, without dashes. I'll stick to this format because I find it easy. You have your own option, but they are not text data, keep in mind. Now let's look at the values that I've inserted. I have chosen just to kind of write my field names here. So I didn't need to, I was writing every record. I've added every field, employee number, employee name, job description, manager number, hire date, everything is there, I think. But I still chose so that you don't forget that you can give your list here and in any order you like. So that means how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. Every record has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. Wherever I wanted a default, I wrote default. It will pick up the default value. Wherever I wanted null, I wrote a null. Right? So the default is a reserved word. If you wanted, you could have written, what was the last? Default 0. You could have written 0 yourself here. It was allowed. There's no big deal. But in future, if you change the default value to -1, for example, then you don't have to go and say, oh, I have to now change it everywhere. So using a default is flexible and is easy. I change this to -1. I don't have to bother. The default will become -1. So when you program, please program in a generic manner. Don't think, oh, it's 0, so I can write 0 and it will work. It will work, but then in future, it's not extensible. So whenever we code, we look for a few properties of coding. The program, of course, should be neat and clean and should follow the rules of whatever language you're using. It should be flexible. It should be extensible. It should be easy to read and so on, right? So these are things that we always keep in mind when we write our code, especially when we write application code. And there is nothing which differentiates code from whether you're writing code for the web or whether you're writing it for an application. So date is new for you. That's the only new type that I'm introducing today. Of course, it cannot take negative values. It has to have that format. So if you try to not follow that format and go with something that is weird, it will, of course, come up with error. So notice how I have input my dates. All my dates, as you see, have been input in the format 4 Ys, 2 Ms, 2 Ds, and they're all in single quotes. You have the option of doing this just for your information. You have the option of doing this. For date, you could have said 1981, 11/17. So this option is allowed. So you can choose whatever makes sense to you, whatever you are easy with. I'll stick to this, but I'll try to remember to keep mentioning that also. You don't put quotes, and it's not a number. Keep in mind, it is still not a number. It is still a date. You've said it is a date. Okay, but you can, it looks like a number. Like the text, the quotes looks like text, but a date is a separate field altogether. It behaves differently. It has its own function. You can find the month of a date. So if I say, what's the month here? It will pick up 11. If I say, give me its name, it will say November. I'll say, what's the year? It will say 1981. Right? If I say, what's the date? The day, it will say 17. So you can pick up things out of a date. In text data, you can pick up substrings if you like, but in date, if it is as easy, if you're using a date and you're using the right format, you can say, what's the month of my date? What's the day of my date? What's the year? So you can do things like this, which of course is useful, right? It's already inbuilt for you. You don't have to worry about, oh, how do I extract the year out of it? How do I extract the month out of it? So follow whatever you like. I leave it to you. It's up to you. It really doesn't matter. Without quotes, you'll write it as a number. No dashes, nothing. It has to be written like that. And for with dashes in text code. And I think slashes are allowed. You can check up. I'm almost positive MySQL allows slashes also. So you'll have to look up the date format in the database you're working with. We are doing MySQL. The word default simply says whatever is the default value. Null is used for, I've used president, I've used manager number is null. Why? Because this guy whose name is King is the president of the company. So he doesn't have a manager. So in his manager number field, which should be a small int, and unsigned, of course. I didn't say not null because I said null will signify that this guy does not have a manager. So I needed that, something to say. Or you could have said, oh, a manager number of 0 means he doesn't have a manager, which is okay. It's up to you. It's a small int, you could put a 0 in it because a 0 is an invalid employee number. So how can your manager number be 0? But keep in mind, manager number and employee numbers are related. An employee number of somebody will be a manager number for somebody else because it's a number, and it's the manager number says who is the manager of this employee. So definitely he has to be an employee somewhere in the hierarchy of the company. Okay. So look at the job description. I have only gone with president, manager, salesman, clerk, analyst, and so on. So I stuck with WARC at 20. So depending upon, you make an educated guess. And educated guesses are educated guesses, not wild guesses. So you will always know when you're creating an application, you will always know what is required. You'll always have your client, and the client will say, oh, I'm saving the name. I need the first name different from last name. You'll create 2 fields. You'll say, it doesn't matter. You can put the name together. You will create a field. So you will know. You'll say, oh, here are the job descriptions in my company. He can or she can be a manager, a clerk, a salesman. So you know what is the job description, right? So that's how you decide about the field sizes. Okay, now just because we are on it, I would like to bring something to your notice. For example, if King, whoever that guy is, it's nothing to do because he's the president, but anyway, suppose this guy called King was called Kings with an apostrophe. So his name was Kings, like normal Kings, like this. Many people have apostrophe in their names. You've heard of O'Leary, right? So O hyphen or whatever. Here I couldn't find anything else, so I'm sticking to King. Now, if I try to change the name of King to Kings, notice what happens. I have a problem. Why? It thinks that this quote has closed the King. So you want S to be part of the name, but as soon as you put a single quote, because you know you put a single quote in Kings, single quote has a special meaning and it gets confused and it has a syntax error. Now, how can you have to remove it? You can't change the guy's name. You'll say, oh, he's still called Kings, but I want to put in his name. There are 2 options. I'll tell you one, which is untidy. You could change the outer quotes to double quotes, only for the guy King or for every name. Who cares? You can do it this way. That's one option. That's one solution, right? Now, all that happens in this is you have to be careful. Oh, if the name has a quote or has any special character, there could be other special characters also. \n is a special character for new line. \o, \b. There are special characters, right? So do I do this? I put it in double quotes, and then inside I keep in mind, oh, this is a special character. There's nothing wrong in it, but there is a uniform generic solution there where you don't have to bother at all. And that is, so you don't change just for the heck of it. For one, you don't change it. You escape the special character. Instead of writing a quote or any other special character, if it was any other special character, all you do is you escape it. So this / is called an escape sequence in all languages. You must have seen it in HTML also and CSS also, right? So now it says the / quote means that this quote that I've put has not to be taken as a quote. It has a different meaning, and the different meaning is just a quote. So don't take it to be a special meaning where it says I am a delimiter, opening and closing. Just take it as its face value. Whatever you see is what it is. Don't try to be smart and say, oh, quote means closing the text. So it's saying, so when you put a / in front of a special character, you're trying to escape its meaning. You're saying escape its meaning. Ignore its special meaning. Take it as its face value. So when it takes it at its face value, it assumes, oh, it's a quote. So the name becomes King, quote S. And notice there is no syntax error now. I don't see any red squiggly. It's perfectly fine. It's all green. So color coding is right. So I'm okay. Now the person is called Kings with an apostrophe. So anytime you have to use a special character, and you know, how will I know? As you program, you will know what are special characters. This definitely is a special character because you're using it at so many other places. So it has a special meaning, right? You use it to delimit your text data. So it has a special meaning. So when you put a / quote, then you're basically saying, oh, leave it alone. Take it at its face value. Don't think what its meaning is. So keep that in mind. Anytime you have to escape the meaning of any special character, put a slash in front of it and it will work perfectly fine. And then I have a normal select statement, select star from table employees. So please save this and run it to see that it should run without any syntax errors for now. So if there is something else afterwards, I think there's nothing wrong in the script. I just chose to run this. Do you see Mr. King? That is his name, Kings with an apostrophe. So it works. All you have to remember is, excuse me, you have to remember to escape it. Okay. So there is my data. The 0.00 is looking odd, but its picture was 7,2. So everything will occur with 2 places after decimal. And that's how it is working. Date is looking exactly like a date. And the manager number for Mr. King, who is the president, is null. Otherwise, everybody else has a manager number. Now, just as a side, because we are not there yet, it's quite obvious, and you should understand it, that any number that is occurring in the manager number, for example, 7782, must be a valid employee number. You can put a manager number here who is not an employee. How can somebody be a manager if he's not the employee of that particular company? So we are not kind of making that rule right now, but logically thinking, anything that occurs in the manager number here must be a valid employee number. So if you change it to something else, I go 7800, it will still work. You never told it to make that connection. And the computer is a dumb machine. It's not intelligent. We are intelligent. It's like saying, oh, on your timetable is the name of a professor who doesn't even exist in the college. How can that be possible? Same kind of concept, right? So in your timetable, there is somebody's name who's not even a professor at the college. How can that happen? Same here. How can the manager number be a number that is not related to an employee? We haven't imposed that rule. We will as we learn a little more. Right now, we will assume that the data is correct, which is, of course, not a good assumption, but an easy one to begin with. Okay, now let's start to do a few select statements, because I'm only doing a few select from what was different. I've given you some selects already, and I'll go through it so that we save time typing, and then I'll go updates and deletes. So here is your format of your select statement, just so that you know. We've done it. So you say select whatever from the table name. The where condition is in square brackets. Square bracket means optional. You may not have a where condition at all, right? It's an optional thing. So therefore it's in square. Order by field name or field names. We did more than one ordering last Friday. Again, it is optional. You may not order your data at all. And then lastly, limit, offset how many. It's saying where do I start, how many do I leave, and how many do you want. And anything in square brackets is optional. Anything without square brackets is required. So when you write a select statement, at the minimum, you have to say select the field list. What do you want to select? Star is an option 2 of a field list. And from what table? For now, I'm saying table. You can also say tables. You can put comma, table name 2, table name 3, and so on. We'll come to it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, we are only working with one table. Okay, now let's do this. And I found a few mistakes in the second assignment. So I kind of said I'll do them with you again. When it says the list of all the employee names and their job description, I'm only looking for name and job description. Please don't say star here. Star is wrong. Syntactically not. Logically, it's not what I've asked for. Okay. So if I say I need to see only those 2 field names, I'm only interested in those 2 field names. So I would like to see the employee name and the job description. So I don't know if you didn't pay attention when I was doing it last time, but I saw that some people did make this error on their second assignment. So I'm bringing it out. So when, oops. If I say I'm only interested in the employee name and the job description, that's all I want to see. You don't say a star there, then you mention your fields. And you'll say, oh, how does it matter? It is important. If there are 15 fields in a table and I'm only interested in looking at 2, why will you give 15 fields to your client? Right? So please follow instructions. If I say I want you to order the table, please order it. If I say I don't want to, don't order it, please. I'm trying to teach you everything But when I test you, I have to test you on what I want to test you on, right? So please do and follow instructions in assignments and exams. It would be good because marking scheme is based on what I'm asking. The whole purpose is I'm testing you here, right? Okay, so that's how you say of all the employee names of all. So that means there is no condition. All I say is from TBL employee. There is no where condition. So here is an example where you don't have a where condition. But to bring to your notice, I'm trying to bring that employee name, comma, job description to you, which a few of you missed in assignment number 2. You just said you just think you can only do select star. You can exactly do what fields you are interested in. And please follow the question, right? The name, yes.
Does it make a difference if it's on a different line or anything like that?
No. You can have your select statement all in one line. As long as you finish it with a semicolon. If there is more, then you need a semicolon. If there is nothing after that, you don't even need a semicolon. But no, it doesn't. Absolutely not. It's just, I think, select from, where, order by, limit. It's just how I see it. And it will, as the number of tables increases, you'll see that this is easy to do. I leave it to you. It's up to you. No big deal. Now it says the names of all managers. That means I'm only interested in the name. Why are you showing me something else? And just because I'm here, let me kind of add something to it, and you also add it. Display field as manager. So I want the display field as manager. I want you to give it a heading manager. Instead of saying manager number, it says the names of all managers. So all I'm saying is I'm calling it managers. Or you can say manager name, whatever you like. So I want you to change it. Instead of saying employee name, which is not a bad field, but does just showing me employee name tell me he's a manager? If I say the heading manager name, oh, it makes sense. These are all the managers in the company. So display names are used to give more meaning to your output, which is logical. What's wrong in it? It makes more sense. It does not change the name of the field in the table. It's only for displaying purposes. Please understand, select statements only display data, nothing else. Okay. Okay. So now how do you give a name to a field or any number of fields? Doesn't matter. I could say, oh, he should be called, this field should be called manager name. This field should be called hire date, whatever. All I have to do is you can or may not write the word as is optional. Okay. And then I'll stick to quotes, though quotes are not required if it was a single word. If there was only one word, manager, it was not required. But I'll stick to it. That way you don't have to kind of think, oh, do I need a quote? Do I not need a quote? If it was only a word, manager, then I didn't need the quotes. Because manager name are 2 words, I need a quote. So go with quotes, right? The word as is optional. So you can write as or you may not write as. So what are you selecting? You are selecting this field. So definitely the field name must match the field name of your table. But just for showing it to the user, you are giving it a heading manager name. It makes more sense. That's it. Making it more better to read. And now he says the names of all the managers. Now, how will you find out if somebody is a manager? How will you find that out? Perfect. Not a big deal at all. So let's go TBL employee. And now he's a manager. If he's a manager, if you kind of look back, manager was the job description. Right? That's all I said. Who are managers? So there is a condition here now. And that condition is based on the field. And again, an exact match. There is a difference between equal and there is a difference between equal and like. Likes are used for inexact matches. And like equal is used for an exact match. And in an exact match, you do not use wildcard characters. Even if you use them, they are ignored. So they're useless. So don't use them. When you're using them in an equal, it means you don't understand what you're doing.
So using the equal sign, so if we had list items that had assistant managers, if we used like, would it pull in the assistant managers, whereas the equal sign would only for
whatever you say exactly. Yeah, so if there was something called system manager and you want to pull them too, then I would say where job description like percentage, manager, percentage. So anything before manager, anything after manager, as long as the word manager is in the job description.
But
Right.
Doing where job description equals manager.
Will only pick up manager, nothing else. One-to-one exact match. That's what it does. So since I know I only have managers, and remember, not case sensitive, because unless you change it. So by default, it is not case sensitive. I could write manager in any case. Spelling is important. Even size is important. Size is important means you can't even write it like this, because that's a different string altogether. So you'll say, oh, then it's better to use like. Yeah, it is better to use like. There is no doubt about it, but it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So if you're saying anybody who's a manager, you can go like, percentage, manager, percentage. If there are system managers, if there are regular managers, or if somebody wrote a manager with extra blanks or whatever, that's what we will do. So I'll write both these solutions for you. Please keep in mind, this is an exact match, case insensitive, just for your information. We can always make it case sensitive. If you remember, we changed the collat sequence, right? We say collat, but that's exactly what it will do. Match word to word, spelling to spelling, everything, right? Whereas this one, and please make a note for yourself, do not use, and it won't work actually. It won't even work. Even if you try it, it won't. We'll say, oh, I'll do it, and it will give me, no, it won't. It just won't do it. It will ignore it. And if you want to go something like this, now this says manager is embedded anywhere in your description. So again, depending upon what you want, but don't mix the two, please. Don't use wildcard characters in exact match. And don't write like without a wildcard character, then it becomes useless. If you say like manager and you remove the wildcard characters, what are you looking for? Just manager. There is no wildcard character, so it will only search for manager. So it's like an exact match. So you have to be careful of what are you trying to do. So again, so this is an inexact match. Of course, you will use wildcard characters, right? And this is not case sensitive even. This is case insensitive. I'm so sorry. Case insensitive. Both of them are case insensitive. You can change it if you like. And of course, use wildcard characters. Right, now let's look at the answer. Let's see what we get. So did we run the job description? No, this was just job description. So this should work. So there it is, employee name and job description, right? Now this one with the name as manager should run too if we haven't made any mistake. There. And notice now the field name, the display name is manager name. So it kind of tells you, oh, these guys are managers. It's better than seeing employee name. So if you don't have this as, see the difference, so that you understand what the as does. Notice the field name, the display name is employee name. Now nowhere it tells you, oh, here is a list of managers. But as soon as I do this, it makes more sense to say, oh, there it is. So we have, and it says manager name. So we, oh, Blake, Clark, and Jones are managers, right? So it makes more sense giving display names. Now, when I say exact match, let's see this. It's ignoring the, no? Yeah, okay. But my strict is on. That's interesting. Let's save it. Okay, so it is ignoring blanks. Of course, this is different from this. Now you won't have anything for sure. So ignoring blanks both ways is working. Of course, there's nothing here. This definitely is different, right? So make a note for yourself then, please. Ignores leading. Let's check for leading also. Just to be sure. Oops, just to be sure. I don't want to give you any wrong. And the best way is just doing it. That is interesting. See, which is really not good of it because it confuses the programmer. But notice now, look at this. I have blanks in the beginning and I don't have a manager. So now it becomes, oh, I'm not going to ignore leading blanks. Whereas trailing blanks are being ignored. So you'll say, what? I don't have an answer. That's how it behaves. So it is. We can change it. That's how language was written. So it says exact match, case sensitive, do not use wildcard, and add trailing blanks are ignored. Make a note for yourself. I thought it should not ignore it and should give me an empty list, but I found that trailing it ignores and leading it doesn't ignore. So that's a kind of a confusion, but that's how it is. You have to live with it. Right? So the programmer has to exactly know how it is behaving. And therefore, when I say equal, I therefore say it's an exact match. Just check for what you are checking for. Don't try to play with it. If you have to really play with it and dance with it, then go with like. Then do all your dancing here. So now this one also should give the same answer. Of course, we have 3 managers. There they are. Now, to answer Brandon's question, just for the heck of it, I'm going to make the manager, sys manager. I don't have a lot to go. I'll go SYS. I think I'm still under 20 characters, right? Just for the heck of it. And I'm going to run it till here, just so that you see the answers. So one guy is now a sys manager, okay? And I'll show you the answer. Do I have an error? No, I'm good. Okay, let's look at it now. Oops, let's look at it. I have a few tables here. That was the first table. That's the second table. That's the third table. Notice the sys manager is not in the manager list in the exact match. He's not there. The sys manager is not a manager exact match, but he's in this list because you said look for manager. So depending upon what you want to do. Okay, so depends upon your application. So that's an exact match and that's an inexact match. So you can change it back if you want. You can leave it whatever you like. But this was to show you that yes, sys manager will be picked up in inexact matches, but will not in exact match. And it makes sense. Exact means I'm exactly looking for this, right? That's what exact match means. Okay, so that's taken care of yours, but you have to be careful because again, a couple of students are doing this. They put an equal here and they put a percentage here. It's useless. It won't work. It won't. It won't give you a syntax error, but it won't work. So they're useless. And removing the wildcard characters from here is again useless because you're looking for manager. Like manager means manager. You don't say, oh, anything before, anything after 1, after 2. No, nothing. That's what you said. That's what you have. Okay, so every likes and equals are important. So something that I wanted to bring out again because of assignment number 2. Now here it says the names of all the employees. So let's again select names of all employees. So that means employee name. Names of all those employees who do not have a manager. Now, how do I know that a particular employee does not have a manager? Remember his manager number or her manager number was null. So you'll have to kind of figure, and I've said use manager number field to retrieve information. I've given you that hint, though it may not always happen in an exam. You have to figure out. So from the table employees, who doesn't have a manager? Those employees do not have a manager where the manager number, where the manager number is null. Please don't forget, you don't say equal, you say is null. You use is with null, you don't use equal with null. Again, you will say, will it work? Yes, it will work. It's except that you won't get an answer. You'll have it's not a syntax error, it's a logical error. So this person, so names of all employees, I don't know how many of them don't have managers. I have no clue. There's only one president as far as we know, but we have no clue. You're not going to go and peek in the data. So you're saying if the manager number is null, that means this person doesn't have a manager. So run that. So Kings was the only guy, because he was the president of the company, he was the only person who didn't have a manager. Right? So again, how do I retrieve the information? You have to think about it, how to retrieve them. So please remember, only those fields need to be shown that are asked for. If I ask for display names, all you do is you add as and give the display name. Doesn't matter, one field, two fields, doesn't matter. You can use as or without as. Put your new name, display name in quotes. It improves readability. It's more for readability of the client, right? Who of the user, let's say. It's easy to kind of understand what you're trying to say. Though our names are good enough, but sometimes like this in manager, it makes more sense if I say he's a manager. So it makes more sense. And don't forget the is null. I saw a couple of equal to nulls in the assignment, just a couple. When I say couple, so that means 95% of the class was okay. Okay, but again, to bring to your notice. Now let's learn how to work with dates, which you haven't done. Okay, look at the question. It says the names and hire date of the employees. So two fields again. Again, in the whole script, I've tried to not use star so that I can make you practice it. Okay, so it says the names. We know that the name of the field is employee name. And guys, you have to remember that the field name must match the name of the field in your table. That's how it is recognized. If you misspell it, any small mistake, even an S, when I try to run it, it will say there is no field called employee names. So you can do that. And the errors, the list of the errors will come. Please try to read your errors. You have to read your errors and figure them out. I won't be around all the time, right? So I'll show you that if I make these mistakes, I'll get a problem. And the hire date. Right? From the table, of course. And I'll just run this first because I want to show you the problem with hire employee names. There is no squiggly, no red squiggly. You will say, oh, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong in my script. Let me give it to Anju. I've told you guys I did it in the first, I let go. But as soon as I see an error, I'm not going to mark after that. I'll only look at the output window. I'll say, oh, I have answers till 4. I'll give you marks till 4. But you're still not paying attention. Assignment 2 was again, 2 or 3 assignments were given that stopped at a particular line and then no answers after that. You always have to be careful. Sometimes you make a very silly mistake. You're submitting something. You say, oh, let me give it a display name. You make a mistake and you don't run it again and you give it to me. And I have a problem. So any change you make before you submit, just run it once. It takes 1 minute to run it, to look, oh, it's running perfectly fine, right? So a small mistake, I can't remember. I think it was Brandon. I'm not pointing out, it's not something wrong, but I think he was going to submit and by chance, he put an extra character, something got pressed and query stopped running because the field name changed. Drinks became drinks. There was a double K. But that was the only mistake in the whole script. After that, everything ran fine. So you can, right? So be careful, always be careful. Okay, now look, it looks fine. I don't see any red squigglies. But if I run it, I get an error. Do you see the error? And it's not so tough to understand. It says, where did I make a mistake? It says table doesn't exist. So there is something else for the table. Is my table spelling wrong?
Yes.
Table employee. Okay, so that's one error for sure. Okay. So that was called table employee. That's one error for sure. And I wasn't aware of it. I was trying to make this error employee names. But anyway, so it tells you an error. So I say, oh, the table doesn't exist. Why? Because I had misspelled the table. Okay, now I have another error. I have another one. It says unknown column name, employee name. You say, that looks fine. The problem is it's called employee name, not names. And you can understand these errors, right? When you run your script, these errors are not tough to understand. Sometimes the error is so, like, it doesn't make sense. And you'll say, what do I do in that case? Google it. There will be a number with the error. They will all, see here, error code 1054, right? So you take this error code, go MySQL, because you're using the MySQL database. For Oracle, it could be something else. For DB2, it could be something else. Go MySQL, and then give that error code 1054. It will give you a better explanation. So sometimes it's fine and it makes complete sense. This table did not exist, was saying because I had an extra S in table employees. And now it says employee names is an unknown column because I made a mistake again. It's called employee name. So you have to be careful about these small things. You can't let them go. Okay, so now I should remove this and now it is fine. There it is. But I haven't completed the query. The question was, something else. Now the question says, who were hired after 1981? So you're not going to say, oh, after 1981 means in 82, in 85, I don't know when. So don't go and look in the table. Some of you do. I can see it from your answer. You go and peek in the table and you try to find you write a query that has the answer itself. You don't look at the contents of the table at all. All you look at is at the description. These are my field names. This is its type. That's it. Don't peek in the table. So it says anybody who was hired after 1981. So after 1981 means December 31st, 1981, anybody who was hired after that or January 1st, 1982 onwards is the person I want. That's the only information I have. I've said don't peek in the table. You have no clue of the other hiring dates. So don't go and look. Oh, if it's not 81, it's 82, 85, 87, and 88. Will you go and search? Nope, keep away. There could be trillions of records. You're not going to scan them to see what are the other hiring dates. Plus, I've also said, note that dates can be written as text in this format as I have done or as a number in the format that I showed you. Do not use like with dates since they are not text. They're not text, guys. I shouldn't tell you, but it will work. But we don't do things that are incorrect. So something works is a different thing than something is correct. I'm looking for correct answers. Keep in mind. Okay, so now let's look at how we do it. A few ways we can do it. What is your condition? You're checking where? My hire date. There are two options. I'll show you both. Is greater than. Now, your date that you want to kind of check is 1981, 31st of December, 1981, if it is greater. But I said they are not text. You have to kind of work with them. You'll have to say cast. So you're going to cast. Let me look at the syntax. I hope I'm right. Yep, you're right. So cast is a function that is available. Notice as soon as I say cast, I get a help. Though that help is not very helpful. But anyway. So what does cast do? Cast, like the English word cast, means to change something. You're casting it into something else. So what am I going to cast? I'm going to cast this data. Now what is this data? Greater than 1981. So 1981 dash 31st of December. Oops. It's not wrong. You can write all lowercase. I've promised that I'll do it for a while. Here. So I'm saying take that 1981-12-31, which is text data, cast it as a date and then use it. So do not use, though it looks like, it looks like text. There's nothing, it looks like text. So most of you will say, oh, that's text. It is not text. Don't use it as text. It will work, but it will not work under all conditions. You may make a mistake. Instead of 12, you will do something like 13, for example. Now, if I use it as text, it will work because it doesn't know it's a date. But if I try to cast it as a date, it will complain. It says, I cannot do that. There is something wrong in your date. So see the difference? Like it will catch this error that 13th is an invalid month if I do the proper thing. If it is text, it's just text. It is taking it as 1981-13-31. It's just a text. It has no, defining it as a date type is not helping it if you're only comparing it with the text. So please make it a point and your marks will be docked off for sure. I'm telling you that you write, whenever you work with date, you cast them as date.
My word cast is changed to the color pink or red.
Purple?
Yeah.
Pinkish, yeah. I think it does in some. Let me think when. Because what are you using? WAMP or XAMPP? WAMP, okay.
Oh, sorry, XAMPP.
XAMPP, so that's why.
It just doesn't for XAMPP?
That's okay. No, yeah, it's fine. It's just they have just used a different color coding.
Okay, no problem.
Yep, right. What about your other reserved words like where, from, select?
Blue.
Blue, okay. But I've seen pink, pinkish, magenta-ish.
Yeah.
It's fine, don't worry. Right? So please cast it as a date. So all you're saying is if the hire date is greater than 12th of December 1981, this person was definitely hired in 1981, after 1981. Make sense? Right? Now, you could here in your select, you could say employee name, and then you could say hire date after 1981. You could add things to it just to make the answer more readable, but that it will work. I again emphasize, MySQL, you can work with dates like text, and unfortunately it will work, but it is not correct. In somewhere it will not work, in the sense that, as I just showed you with the 13, and you will not catch that error. Okay, so be careful. Now let's see, anybody who was hired after 1981. Makes logical sense? After 31st December, after 1981. So let's try this. And these guys were hired after 1981. You can double check in your data. Yes.
Is there any reason why when I put the month and the date reversed, so in the wrong spot I had year, date, month, it didn't actually give me an error, just give me the results.
Okay, the results. Okay, so now the only thing in that case is, if it has given you results, then you go here and double check that does MySQL date format allow it to you. As far as I remember, it says YYMMDD format, and that's the supported range. And you're saying it's giving you an answer?
No, it didn't give me any
syntax error.
It didn't give me any syntax error.
Yeah.
What the results were.
Okay, and did you do a cast?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and after, so what did you change it to 31 and 12?
Yeah, 1981, 31, 12.
And the table was empty.
The table was empty.
Okay, but it doesn't give you an error.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have to be careful yourself then.
Okay.
It's not even catching the error. Right? It's not even catching the error. So you have to be very careful. And one way where I thought, and though it's an empty table, so the answer is wrong, but it would have been better if you were given a logical error, but it's not giving you any syntax error or anything. It just gives you an empty table. So you'll say, so I have my result. No, your results are wrong. So the answer is wrong. Unfortunately, it's not just telling you why it is wrong. Yes.
In that case, what would it say when you display it as a text? Like if you display it as...
Oh, if I try to do that, I'll show you. Then it's just text.
Oh,
it will just give you an empty table. That's what Brandon said. Like let's do it like this, right? So there were 3 people in 1981. Empty table. Wrong answer. Because your date was useless. See, this is a useless date. I would have preferred that it showed an error. It just ignored it, which is not a good thing. But again, you can change things. However languages are made is how it is. And MySQL is a lazy language. Therefore, I said it will also work as text. I'll show you how it works as text. Now, is there another way of writing the same query? Can you think of another way of writing the same query? Not very tough. You can use a greater than equal to and cast it as, even this will work. Same thing. Oh, sorry. Same thing. Greater than equal to. Be careful about your relational operators. Don't be lazy. If an equal to is required, you put it. If it is not required, if I say carbs greater than 3 and you're writing carbs greater than equal to 2, that's the wrong answer. I'm saying carbs greater than 3. I want to see carbs greater than 3. I don't want to see greater than equal to. I don't want to see greater than equal to 2, because greater than equal to 2 means 3 is included. I don't want it and 2 is included. So they have to be correct. Your answers have to be correct to get marks. Otherwise, it's a wrong answer. Even if it is, I meant carbs greater than 3, but I wrote calories greater than 3. No, I asked for carbs. I'm looking for carbs. So be careful. Take your time and answer your queries. Now, there is a third way of doing it. What I'm going to do is, remember that number I was saying that you can use? You can do it this way also. That's another way of doing it. You should have the same answer in all 3. So let's try all 3. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Right? So you can use it as a number, you can use it as text, but please cast it as a date. Unfortunately, we found out that we don't get an error if we kind of mess up the date. We just don't get an answer. An error would have been better. Definitely, I would have liked to see an error, but I can't control how things are working. Now, just for you, though it's such a, I would stay away. Absolutely. This is another way. And I'm going to remove it. I just want to show it to you. I'm kind of behaving as if it was text. No, anything after 1981. I don't know what the 82s will be. I'm trying to see how I can show it as a text to you. I mean, this will of course work, which is really bad, but no, this is not a good example. I can't show you. I'll show you somewhere else where things like this will work. Here it won't work. It will only show me 1982, guys. It will. So anybody who is hired in 1982, the answer will come up. Notice it just assumed it was text starting with 1982. That's what it assumed. Please keep away. I'm mentioning, don't even think of date as text, and you will not make silly mistakes like this. I'm not even going to keep this on Blackboard. I'm not going to. I don't want you to even think about it. Okay. So don't think that they are text. Always do a casting of your text data or of your numbers. Always. Unfortunately, no errors, but no answers.
I'm getting an error with fast.
Okay. Do you think you followed the syntax exactly right?
Yeah.
As date, put it in round brackets. Okay, let me come and see what mistake you could have made. We'll do a couple more and then I'll give you a break. Okay, I remember it. Okay, so when you write your date with dashes, you have to put it in quotes.
Oh no, I did. I just changed it.
Okay, so put it now. Just right. I have an error somewhere around the incorrect parameters in the all to stored function. So let's remove it. Run the whole script without selection. Incorrect parameters in the all to stored function. It is coming on that line. What MySQL version are you using? What did you download? The RAM, just this class, right? Because there was no cache before. The error says incorrect parameters in the call to stored function cast.
Thanks for your error.
I think so, almost. That's what is.
I would want sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, here.
Yeah, it's not eligible to do.
Oh, okay, so it has to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, and you know what? Normally languages will not.
As long as.
Right, okay, so let me tell you something that Stuart, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he tried something which is really, and that's why I said MySQL, the SQL language is not a pure language, it's for lazy people, but anyway, I shouldn't be saying it. Now, this will usually not cause a problem in other languages, but what has this become is the name of the function has become cast blank. Notice what it is. The function is now called cast blank, and it didn't find any function called cast blank, and it came up with an error. Right? Since it came up with an error and I see it, let me bring it to your notice that don't leave any space between the function name and the opening brackets. This is called the parameter list for your information. This is called the parameter list. So if I leave a blank, I mean, blanks are usually ignored, right? But what it has done is, see, it says incorrect parameters in the call to stored function. And it's kind of saying something is wrong in your parameters. And I was looking at the parameters. There's nothing wrong in the parameters. He didn't have anything wrong. Please remember, if you are using the dash format, you have to put it in quotes. And if you're using the number format, it's without quote. Though again, numbers are allowed in quotes too. So the problem is here. No blank after the function name. Keep in mind, because it takes it to be cast blank, which is not cast. Though the error was not very helpful. Okay, so we've seen a few. And please keep away from text data. I'm not sure. I thought I was able to. Okay, maybe in the next one I'll show you, because these are people that were hired in 1981. Now, once you know how people that were hired in more after 1981, it's very easy to see people who were hired in 1981. It will be a little more work, but it can be done. Okay, so what do we want? People who were hired in 1981 only. That means from 1st January of 81 to 31st December of 81. So you have to use an and. Right? You have to use a compound condition. Okay, so what? Where the hire date is greater than equal to it's just like relational operators. Oops, not you. And don't forget to write the field name again. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, so from 1st January of 81 to 31st December of 81. That's where people who were hired in 81 only. And don't forget, you have to repeat the field name. Color is equal to orange or color is equal to yellow. Last assignment. If you don't do it, if you don't repeat the field name, it will run. Table will be empty. Right? So somewhere MySQL doesn't come up with errors, but you have to be careful that you don't make any mistakes. Of course, if you can use this, remember your between. Please again keep in mind people who had left the class last week. Between is an exact match. You can use between. Between is an exact match, which means you cannot use percentages with it. You cannot. It will just not work. Unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, dash behaves a little differently. So because things are not so, like hard and fast rules, I kind of give a rule that will always work. I say do not, between is an exact match. So keep in mind, from this, including this, to this, including this, no more. So for drink names, last week when you were doing an assignment, I said all drink names that start from G and go through O. If you simply say between G and O, then it won't work because it will come and stop at O. So anything after O, like oh my gosh, or whatever, will stop. It stops here at O. And you say, oh, let me put O percentage then. It won't work. Percentage doesn't work with betweens. Between is an exact match. Though I found an answer, and I think Kayla had it. She had written a dash here, and it was working. And I blew it. Like, what's this now? Yeah, it did. It worked. And I'm thinking now, how the hell is that working? It's not making any sense. And I review and I Google and I do think I have no answer. But hers worked. Instead of percentage, she wrote an underscore and it's working. It's giving everything. Oh my gosh. I tried everything. O1, O2, O, like everything worked. Now, how the heck are they explaining this? For one character, oh my gosh is working. But not only O, anything is working after O. And I can't tell her it's wrong. It is like, it's working and she says it's working. How are you not giving me marks for it? But I'm stumped. I have no answer for it. I really don't. And I did so much of it. Just because hers was working, I said, how is that working? So guys, believe me, take my word for it. Believe me, between is an exact match. Wildcard characters should not work, and they don't. Try O percentage doesn't. I have no clue why O underscore works, and it does work. I've checked it, it works. So I'll give her marks, but avoid. Avoid, okay? Don't do it because you'll be in a jam. Like, you'll start thinking, oh, percentage should also work. It won't. So it's an exact match. It starts from where you say and it stops at where you say. So I can write it here. Now, I was saying I'll show it to you, and I will. And this is where I was saying people who were hired in 1981, this will work. Unfortunately, this will work. I've just said, oh, anything that starts with 1981. Nothing wrong in it, but just for the heck of it, if somebody had 1981, that's something, like if it was any text data, Everything will work. So as long as it starts with 1981, it will work. But you're saying I know it's a date field. I've already given right values in it. I've not made any mistakes. So what's wrong in it? Why don't you let me use it? It's so easy. I don't have to cast it. It makes complete sense to me. I'm saying it starts with 1981. Maybe it will work here, but somewhere when you write code, someday it will crash and it won't work for what you think. So don't think incorrectly and you won't make those mistakes. So again, I won't put it, right? Or if you want, I can put it here and I'll write in big words. Don't do this. Right? So I'll leave it for you so that you see it, but it does work. I know it does because of course I've tested it. I'm going to, I don't know, I'll pick this up. So people who were hired in 1981, all these people were hired in 1981, same answer, right? And now to show you that like. Gives me the right answer. Because logically, all you're saying it begins with 1981. So logically, there is nothing wrong in it, but it is not the correct way of doing it. It is not the correct way. Believe me, it is not. It will not work always. So it's not correct. It is not correct, okay? So do not do this. I'll leave it here, but it is not correct. So here is where like comes handy. Starts with 1981, doesn't matter what comes after that. Right? So avoid it. Okay, I'm going to give you a break here and then we'll come back and do the rest. I've given you some answers and do the rest with you, okay? Take a break, 20 minutes, come back please in 20 minutes. I'm trying to see that you don't have a problem here, but you have a problem when you do it here. Oh, that's really strange. Anyway. Oh yeah, that's fine because you see what you did. You took your hire date and you extracted the year out of it, which is a function, right? And it extracted 1981, and so it's like you're comparing the 1981 with a number, and that's fine.
Okay, and it would work for...
Yep, it will work for here too. Good, I'll show that to my students too, since you brought it up. You have kind of used the year function on the date, and the year returns a number.
Okay.
So you're just comparing it with 1981.
Okay.
So which is logically correct. There's nothing wrong in it, right?
All right.
Yep, good thing you did it, and I'll do it when they come back. You didn't need to use cast at all because you're not going that way. You're using a different function altogether. Okay.
For the whole thing?
For the whole thing.
That's just run.
Say, I used to work at a call center. Just saying, I like you were putting me on here, you don't call it. I still call. And then I legally, literally select, you don't call it. Because I use a computer, right? Like, I don't think they're in trouble. And then, or else if you say no, or you don't pick up, it's like.
Yeah, but there's more in the one.
And you get stuff. They actually did a seat, what is it called? The seat thing, the guy.
Like the guy or something like that.
There was a documentary, documentary on it. And it was hustling, because they used to have hacks. Like they'd be telling you like, oh yeah, you want your husband. And the person's like, yeah, sure, you know what, I will do it. What I do is, when my parents hated it, I'll do when I know it's them, I pick up and then I just put my phone down and I go do whatever I want for now.
Or I'll be like, hello? Hello? Like, I can't hear you.
The duck meeting one, you guys have to.
Yeah.
Like, it's a duck thing, so I was like, no, my duck's sick leave.
No, my duck's in the back. That's actually smart. That's a plan.
Well, like, we have like ones that specifically need it, like, I feel like they get sold out and they get sold this year, like, this, like, a search period. Find like the ones like the last one, how they do like that. So then I picked up and, oh, the films, they moved out quite a while ago. So then, like, I get kicked off the job, they're like, oh, and Indian family doesn't live here.
That's sick. That's smart.
And then,
Oh my God, another one. Sorry, man, I don't watch one. Yeah, I watched the last one. Actually, Black Beat.
I'm so excited.
I was so pumped for that. I'm definitely missing that one. Kendrick Lamar's got a full soundtrack.
Did it leave already? One of my favorite soundtracks for a movie is Drive. Have you guys ever seen the movie? Jake Gyllenhaal?
What's it about?
Yeah. They like a title chat.
Jade.
Jade. Scales.
One is just like, it's got like fish on it.
Yeah.
That one is amazing.
What, you have some fish on it?
Yeah. Yeah. All the fun stuff. Take my.
You would butt black one.
Wrong enough one day.
Dude, I struggle with these. Because they none of them just go to my side. The closest one to my side is usually me. It is not good.
I'll take a picture.
I have a vacuum. Or and not.
I would not pay the difference.
I do have a Harry Potter one though. It came with a hood, with the cape and the hood and all that. So like I came out, was running around the house. I'm like, oh, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That's how I watch.
What? Awesome. There were too many children. No worries.
I was like, and she was choked.
You know how they have all the trampolines? So I was jumping like.
Why would you want to do that?
I don't know, I didn't even know, it came out of nowhere, so I jumped right in. No, she was walking in between all the trampolines, trying to get to the
That's
class.
where the baby she's the baby. I tried to drop it in like there.
Huge. I was trying to see, you know, how the one that brought up to like the wall. I was trying to do that bounce one to get to the wall one, right? And so the little girl cut in front of me, so I stop, I fall like facing like into the trampoline, right? And so I get up, and start just kind of bouncing place with the little girl, she keep running up her bed. And mom watched all this happen. Mom would go, yeah. And I'm sitting there like, I was like, this all I had to like.
That's why we're sticking with my outlet, like, I'll bring them little. We have a little, like, our like, yeah, we have a little stuff. That we did. Really good. My teeny bar, like, we could do
Okay, guys, a few things. Let me bring to your notice a few things. Brandon was asking about date, that if you give an invalid date, nothing happens. Like it doesn't give an error, but there's no answer. Fortunately, which is at least good here. If you try to insert an invalid date, it is coming up with an error. And that's how it should come up when you try to select something invalid, right? But for example, here, for whatever reason, if I make this 101, I'm just doing it for the last one, and I try to run my script again, I've made 101, which is an invalid month, right? It comes up with an error. It says, that's not allowed. You have an incorrect date. So it's making sense here, but somehow for whatever reason, and similarly here, if I make this 123 is not a valid day in January. It will come up. It will actually also come up with February being 20, in a non-leap year, if you try to go to 29, it will also come up with that error. So at least in inserts, it is working how it should. I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't come up with an error in the select statement. Logically, the answer is wrong. I mean, it is an empty table, but it would be nice to come up with an error saying that is an invalid date. But as I said, there's not much I can do about it. But at least in insert, if you try to go beyond or you give an invalid date, or there is a range also. If you remember, there was a range that was mentioned, which was quite a big range. If you try to go outside, or if you give an invalid month or an invalid day, it will come up with an error. So which is good. At least they are doing something there. Unfortunately, if you try to use an invalid date here, it doesn't come up with the syntax error or with anything, no logical error. It just gives you an empty table. So can't do much about it. It's how it works. Just as we were going on break, Andre came up and asked me a question, which is good that he brought up something new and I can share it with you too. He said, can I do it this way? So he selected the employee name, the hire date, and these are people who were employed in 1981, right? So he came up with this solution. Since I was mentioning there are functions, and he's done the use of a function. He says, can I do this? Is there something wrong in it logically or otherwise? Like I'm saying, it's not text. This is absolutely valid and correct. There's nothing wrong in this at all. At all times it will work. So he extracted the year out of the date. I told you there are functions. There is an year function, there is a month function, there is a day function. These are three functions definitely easy that I know because we use it all the time. So he extracted the year out of the hire date for every record. So year is a function, like cast is a function, year is a function, and he compared it with the 1981. Now, how do we compare? What is it returning? So if you look it up, which I did, year is a function that returns a value in the range of 1000 to 999, or for zero dates. You'll say, what is the zero date? You can, just so that you know, you can make a date as 0000-00-00. If you wanted to store a date in that format saying, oh, I don't know what the hire date is, but for now I'll just say 00. It kind of says this is it's a valid date, but it's kind of saying as if you would initialize numbers with 0. So all zeros is a valid date. So when you try to use the year function on that, you will get a 0, but otherwise you will get a number. And there is nothing wrong in this at all. This is absolutely correct. You haven't used cast, but you haven't treated it as text. You know what I mean? Like you've just used a function on it. So there is an year function. So if I said greater than 1981, remember we said more than 1981 in the previous one. You can use the same thing here and use it here. Here. I think this was greater than 1981, right? People who were hired after 1981. So even this is that what it said? After 1981. So this is for after 1981, you just say greater than 1981. So there's nothing wrong in this at all. There is syntactically also and logically also. It will never be wrong because all you're using is using an year function on it. Now, again, SQL allows you to put numbers in quotes. But in all my assignments and in all my exams, I will always say, please don't put numbers in quotes, only put text in quotes. So this will work too. Right? Again, numbers can be put in quotes in MySQL, but I'll never do it. I don't want you to do it also, because then the whole concept of putting text data in quotes, everything becomes confusing. Is this a number? Is this a text? So that way I always keep away from it. And I tell my students, don't. For all other languages, it's not allowed. So why should we become careless in SQL? So SQL, as I said, it's not a pure language. It's called a structured query language, but it was built for databases, right? So it's not very strict. It's a little rough. You can put numbers in quotes. It also works with taking data as text that I just showed you with like. But again, the important thing that you have to remember is that you do things right, so that you are saying, oh, it cannot happen otherwise. Why is my answer wrong when I'm doing everything right? Okay, so thanks for bringing that up, Andrew, but that's absolutely right. There's nothing wrong in it at all. He just used the year function and it returned a number and he compared it with 1981, which is absolutely valid. So I leave this here and I'll put this back on Blackboard so that you have it, but you can use functions and you can extract. I could have extracted month and so on, but here I didn't need to. I only wanted to see the year. So there's nothing wrong in using this, but this definitely where I've said, do not do this. It is not correct. I don't want you to use it. It is not correct. Believe me, it is not. It's just how they've done it, how it just works. Things work. This is the names and commission of all employees that have earned a commission. This is not so tough. all you have to do is, you have to be careful about nulls and not nulls. That's all that I want to bring about. So employee name, comma, commission of all employees. So be careful what is being asked. So what do you want to select? From what table do you want to select? And under what conditions do you want, under what conditions do you want to select? So you're saying who have earned a commission. Now that earned a commission means commission. Now you'll say, does it mean a commission is not null? They have earned a commission, but commission could be 0 also. If I've said earned a commission, then you will say where commission is greater than 0. They've earned a commission. Right now, some questions could be, a little confusing. Does she want null or does she want greater than 0? But hopefully when I give it, I'll be clear about it. I'll use some words like defined or something, or not defined, that will give you the hint. Okay. Names. So here is, you have to be careful that have earned a commission. You could have said not null. That's earning a commission, but 0 is not earning a commission. You know what I mean? Like it didn't earn any commission. Now there are a few that I've kind of written for you just because they were one, easy, and two, like I just didn't want to waste time in class. So these are easy ones. Now at least means greater than or equal to, and you will lose marks if you don't use the right relational operator. Because I'm saying at least and you're saying less than. I'm saying at least and you're missing your equal to sign. So you will just come down the rubric. So be careful about these small things, right? Field names should definitely be right, but the conditions should also be right. Jobs, salaries, and job description of all employees that earn between 1,000 and 2,000 inclusive. Inclusive means you're both sides. So again, the other day somebody was asked, maybe they didn't pay attention that you have to use relational operators, but one, I've done using relational operators, and two, I've used the between verb. Again, remember, between is an exact match, including everything plus the two limits. So if between doesn't work for a particular question, then you can do it because it includes the limits also. The names and salaries of all the clerk. Again, I've said job description is equal to clerk. You could have used like clerk percentage if there was a reason to do that. Here it's only clerk. So here are some easy ones. I've just kind of filled them in just so that you see them again, right? Names and job descriptions of all employees that have no commission. That's commission is equal to 0. So careful about nulls and commissions. Names and job descriptions of employees who is either a manager, analyst, or salesman. So give two solutions again. One I've done using or, and one I've done using in. I gave you the in hint last in the assignment. Again, please go and research or look for things. You will always get answers. So it was asked, I did give you a solution. So mostly students did the not in also correct. So you can use it either way. This is more compact according to me, but again, in an exam or in an assignment, I may say, give me two solutions, or I may say, use the in verb. I may say, use the relational operators. So you just have to be careful what is asked. Now look at these ones. There are a few here, few ways of doing this. It says, who is neither a salesman nor a clerk. So he cannot be a salesman. And so the use of and or is important. You can't say color is equal to orange and color is equal to yellow. How can a drink have both the colors? You know what I mean? If I say, give me drinks that are orange or yellow, I can even say orange and yellow. I'm just talking English. I'm not talking Boolean operators and or. I'm saying, and they're yellow and orange. Give me all yellow and orange drinks. That's a normal English statement. Give me all yellow and orange drinks. That doesn't mean you have to use the relational operator and. And logically think about it. How can the color be orange and yellow? Can't be. Okay, so logically also think about it. So I won't give out the answers in my questions. In the assignment, I said neither nor, but I can say, give me orange and yellow drinks. That's a valid English statement. So be careful where you need and where you need or. So here it says names and job descriptions of all employees who is neither a salesman nor a clerk. So he's not a salesman and he's not a clerk. Anything else will do. So you have to use an and. So he's not a salesman, he's not a clerk. I've used the not equal operator here in two different ways. There are two not equal operators in MySQL, but I've also done it a little differently. I've used the not in verb. Perfectly fine. So as long as it is not in this set, this is a kind of a set. You don't repeat it more than once. You don't say salesman, comma, salesman. You just write each element only once. You're saying it's not in here. That's what I want. I've used the not operator. I've said not job description is equal to salesman and not job description is equal to clerk. When you use the not operator, you have to use it with a field name. You don't use it here. You can't use it here. It will give you an error. If you want to say not equal to, use the operator not equal to. And lastly, just to show you that it can be also done using or, I did the not outside and then I did this condition together. So what is it saying? Look for people who are either a salesman or a clerk. So you have that set. And now go the false of it, opposite of it. So anybody who is not a salesman and not a clerk. So every query can be answered in different ways. I just showed you 5 examples of one query. And of course, they should all give me the same answer. So people who are neither clerks and managers and sales. Oops. No, I've included more than what here. I have to include from here. So these persons or these employees are either salespersons or, oh God, here, let's run this. And of course, your answers should all be the same. So how do I know the answers are correct? Because you shouldn't see either salesman or clerks in them. Right? So a query can be answered in different ways. There is no hard and fast rule what to use. But having said that, I'm cautioning you that I could be saying, oh, use the not operator or use the not and the and operator, just because I'm trying to see that do you understand it? Right? The aim is, the aim of exams and assignments in an education environment is to test what I've taught you. What you do in the real world is absolutely different. So if you know all ways of doing something, then at the end of the day, you're your own master. How you do it really doesn't matter. But my aim is that I teach you everything. Then you pick up whatever is easy to you. So some people may like the not in, like I like not in, because it's so English-like and so simple to understand. Some students I see use the not equal to operator, this one or this one. This I hardly see. Wherever it's not job description, wherever it's a not operator, I don't see a lot of answers that way. But that doesn't mean you should know not how to do it. Maybe sometime there is nothing else but to work this way. So I've given you all solutions here. And again, where to use and, where to use or, and where to use the not equal to operator, everything has been mentioned here. Okay. So this is with you. I just gave it to you so that you have it. Now, the new things that we want to do today. How do I update something in my table, right? So we know how to select. We've done quite a few of selects. I have done a few with you, but there is no end to it. There could be something entirely new you see in your assignment, but that doesn't mean you can figure it out. I've given you enough examples to figure out things. But if not, you can always Google and check and see how to do it. And you have to learn how to do that too. You're not in kindergarten. You are here at college level where your ideas are also important when you go out in the world. Right now, mine are important because I'm testing you. But in the real world, when you think of something, oh, can I do it this way? Can I do it this way? Which would be a better way? What are the possible solutions? And you will have to research all the time. Not everybody knows all solutions. So that's that. And the best thing is you have thousands of resources at the click of a mouse. That's the best part. So please tap your resources, try to find out answers, and then choose the best solution and the correct solution. Okay? So don't go with rough work ever. Never. Okay, now let's look at the update statement. So we know how to create a database. We know how to create a table. We know how to insert data in the table. We also know how to select data from the table. Now comes the next step. If I need to change some records or a record, simple, for example, I'm leaving the college, they want to delete my record, or my office location has changed, so they want to change the office location for me in my database. All valid, my extension has changed, anything. So you need to update and delete records also. It's not only you add them. So you wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to delete the whole record and then add a new one. That's one way of doing it. Delete it and add a new one, but not necessarily the correct way of doing it. A record is already present. I want to change something in it. I should be able to do it by the update statement. So here is the syntax of the update, and then we'll write it. It says update. Which table are you trying to update? You can only update one table at a time. You can't update more than one table at a time. What are the new values? The new values are done using the set statement. Set this column to this value, and you can do as many sets. So name to Anju K. Chawla. I've changed my name, right? Address to this. room number to this. I can change as many fields as I like, and I have to do it in one set statement. You don't write set over and over again. So I write one, and notice then how the rest is in square brackets with a comma and then dot, 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 which means you can add, you can change as many fields as you like in one set statement. You don't keep writing set over and over again. You cannot. You do it in one statement. So optional means, oh, one has to be given. The rest are optional, and the dot, dot, dot means any number of fields. Now the where condition, there may be no where condition. Maybe I'm changing every employee's, silly example, I don't know. For drinks, maybe I'm changing the ice to yes for all the drinks. Then every record is being changed. Then I don't need a where condition. I say change all drinks, ice is equal to y for everything. I don't need a where condition. So you may or may not have a where condition, and therefore the where condition is in square brackets. And lastly, the limit, how many. So you could be saying, oh, I'm going to only update the first 5 records. So you say limit 5. Now there is no offset in update. Remember in select, we had an offset comma upper limit. In update, you don't have it. You can only delete the first, or you can only update the first 1, 2, 3, 4, but only the first. So if you, and again, I've already mentioned that the records is, the sequence is unknown. Kind of, that's what they say, but it's always how you add them. But they've taken their hands off. So maybe the only way to do is look for them and update them, but there is a limit that is available. Okay, now let's do some update statements. Now let's do it. Now this new statement that you are seeing, what does it do? Describe. Let me do it for you. And you will see what describe does. Describe shows you the structure of the table, right? So we haven't done this before, but as I do things, I'll add new commands. I've shown you the describe here. Describe shows you the structure. So very quickly, if you want to see the structure of a table, for whatever reason, you're writing a select, you've forgotten the names of the fields and you don't want to go look at the script or whatever, just describe it and it will show you. So it's easy. Notice what it is saying. Employee number is a small int unsigned of size 5. Oh, let me also tell you what this 5 is coming as. Null, no, it's not a null field. Is it a primary key? Yes. Is there a default value? Null, and anything that is extra. Like, I don't know what in extra, I've never seen anything extra here, but extra means anything that is extra field. Now, let me tell you what is this 5 is, because I've seen it in somebody's assignment also. When they created, they wrote small int 5 there. You will notice that, and maybe that person was researching on the internet, because I have not done it. Now, that's an odd thing to do, but you will find it in many scripts. And by default, if you tell MySQL to create a script for create a description for you, it gives these odd numbers. This has nothing to do with the size of the field, nothing at all. It's only for display purposes. It's saying that it is a small int, I will display 5 digits, minimum of 5 digits I will always display. So when you see these numbers in int, small int, tiny int, they don't tell you anything about the size of how it is stored. It is only telling you how it will be displayed. So if you always want to show your employee number with always of size 5, just put a 5 here. It will always come up in 5 digits, right? So somebody did it in their tiny int in their assignment. So just so that you know, what does it mean? So I don't use it because I don't see the reason of, but that's what it means. It has nothing to, it's nothing to do with size at all. What did I change? So now you won't be able to see it because it's just, I mean, how will I tell you that it's only 5? But it is, that's what it does with 5. That's all it does, nothing else. So if you see it in some, examples, or you'll say, what does that mean? Basically nothing, right? Nothing in the create in terms of storage, nothing at all. You'll say, oh, what if you do 2? Like I've changed it to 2. 2 means you will only be showing me 2 digits. It's just for displaying purposes. Let's see what it does. So sometimes I just saw it in one student's example. So I'm thinking, where does or did he or she get it? See? So it's nothing to do with storage or anything. If it requires more than 2, it will simply ignore your 2. If it requires less, then it just adds a blank after. So I don't use it at all because I don't see a need of using it. But just because you may see it, I'll leave it here. Okay, I just wanted to bring it to your notice. Okay, so describe. What does describe do? Describe just describes the table. So till now, whatever we've written, everything is running. And this is your last one. This is the description. Oops, no, one more to go. This is your description. Okay. Okay, let's update now. Let's learn how to update now. Now, how will you know something got updated? There are like, you will see the table before it and you will see the table after it. That's the only way you can know whether your query worked or did not work. Like, how else will you know, right? So usually in an update, just so that I'm checking everything is working, I'll do it this way. So Turner's commission to 400. I don't know what his commission is. So you don't peek in the table, please. So I'm going to select the commission and his name also so that I know I'm doing the right guy. This is just for double checking for myself, okay? It's not the update statement. Of course it's not. You see, it's a select statement. I've said update Turner's commission. So his name is Turner here. Okay, so I don't know what his commission is. So let me see what his commission is. Oh, his commission is 0 right now. We want to change it to 400. So I only wrote a select statement because I wanted to see, are my results okay before and after the update. So I'll take this again. I don't want to do manual check. I don't want to go and check in the database. So I use select statements. So there is a before, there is an after. So before it is showing me 400, 0, and then after the update, it will show me 400. So I write 2 select statements for myself to double check if my answer is right. Now let's update it. Here is the update statement. Very similar. It's not as if you're learning kind of something absolutely out of where conditions will remain the same. So let's update the employee table. Oops, spelling is wrong. The syntax was update, the name of the table you want to update. What do you want to change? I want to change what? The commission. What is its new value? 400. For whom? For Turner. Make sense? So update the table name, set the name of the column is equal to the new value. But for whom? Where the employee name is Turner. So he was at a 0. We just saw his commission was 0. After this, it should change to 400. As simple as that. That's how you update. You can update as many fields and we'll do it. You can update all the records. We'll do some examples. You can update only certain records. I'm filtering it. I'm only updating Turner's records. So I'm only updating a record, assuming there is only one Turner, which it is. Okay, so let's now do this. Okay, so this was before 0 and this is after. You will say update doesn't have output. No, update doesn't have an output. Update is just doing a change. Therefore, I needed the select to show you the answer. Update doesn't give you an answer. If you don't have the select statements, you only run this update. Okay, something happened, but did it work? Is the answer right? Did it change? I have no clue. So to double check, what will I do? I'll definitely see his commission again. So always in an update, I will have select statement before the update. I will have select statement after the update to double check that my answer is okay. That's the only way you can check. There is no way otherwise you can check. Or you can keep saying select star from the table name. That's another easy way. But update doesn't have an output. Keep in mind, it will say one record was updated. That's what it will say. But how do you know it was the right thing you did? So you will always need a select before the update and a select after the update to double check your answers. Just to double check your answers. Change the job description of all analyst to market analyst. Everybody who is an analyst now will be called a market analyst. Okay, let's try that. So we are interested in job description. So to look at somebody's job description, I'll look at his job description or his or her, whatever. Why do I choose these fields? They are enough for me. I'm interested in the job description. Okay, now I'm only interested in people who are analysts. Again, can I show the whole table? You sure can show the whole table, but this one makes you, it's easy to look at this. You want to do a exact change. That's all you want to do. Analyst becomes a market analyst. Not every kind of analyst becomes a market analyst. Again, depends upon the question. So let's look at who are the analysts in our company. Okay, so Ford and Scott are both analysts. Now, nobody else is an analyst. Now, these two guys will now be called market analysts. So let's see what to do. So let's try it. Update, we'll do an update. Okay, so let's update. Which table am I updating? Of course, the table employee table. Okay, what am I setting? I'm setting the job description. Thank you. Update. Where set the job description to what? To this, whatever I've said. For everybody? No, not for everybody. Only for those employees. So again, the two select statements, just to double check my answer is okay. So Ford and Scott are the two employees who are analysts. I update the table, I change the description for only the analyst guys, and now it becomes a market analyst. The capital has only come because I copied it. I mean, if you want to be consistent throughout and it will look odd, you can go all small, really doesn't matter. Remember, case insensitive, we are not doing any sensitive searches, so analyst in any form will do. Neatness is kind of required in tables. Why? Because if you have to look at all the contents of a table or maybe 100 records also, you want some type of consistency in your data. It's always kind of the same thing. Okay, let's try. Let's try this. We already know. Uh-oh. Something happened. Okay, so 0 returned. These people were analysts. Uh-oh, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Must have ran it or something. Okay, so let's save it. I'll run it till where? I'll run it till here. Oh, something else? Did I make a mistake? Yeah, but before that it should, oh, I've already updated it now. Yes. How silly can that be? So I'll have to run the whole script. Nothing else that I can do. Let's run the whole script and look at the last two answers. Okay, so nobody with analyst and one here. Oh, because I see what you mean. I copied and pasted and I want to now, there is nobody with analyst now. These guys are now called market analysts. So which is right. It is the right answer. The table is empty. So there is nobody called analyst now, which is perfectly fine. So the answer is not wrong. But if you want to see, oh, did their job description get changed? Yeah, their job description should get changed. I should have the same two names again. There it is, right? These two guys were analysts before, and these two guys are market analysts. So the empty table was correct. It was the right answer. There was nobody with now a job description of analyst. Okay, getting it? So update the table name, set the values where if required, and limit. I'll show you the limit also. Okay, now let's look at this one. It doesn't require, let's see, we are updating all null commissions to 0. So wherever the commission is null, the company changes its mind. It says we don't want to keep null. We want to say 0 for wherever you see null. Okay, let's try it then. So we want to update. So who had null commissions first? Let's try that first. Select. Now you could give a star here, or you could give a name, whatever. From the table employee, where the commission is null. Let's see, does somebody have null commission? I don't know. We can check. Oh, nobody has a null commission, so how will we check it? Oh, well, let's make somebody null then. Commission was which field? Last field. Okay, so last field was commission. So I'm going to make somebody a null commission just for the heck of it, because I want to see if my answer is right. Here, I changed it. I changed the last record to have a commission of null. I have to double check if my answers are correct. And that's how I can check. There was nobody with null commission, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, like here. Okay, let's save this. So now I'll run the script once again so that there is somebody with null commission. If you change anything in your table, you have to run the script till there at least. But I mean, I was just lazy. So here it is. The last guy, Miller, his commission is null. I changed it to null at line number 52 and I see it in the table. Now it says change all commissions that are null. I don't know whose commission is null. Like, as I said, you don't go and peek in the table at all. Do a normal statement. Say update my table employee. Set the commission. So you're working with the same field. Nothing stops you working with the same field. Set commission to 0 for everybody where the commission is null. Remember, whenever you check, you go is null. In assignment, you go equal. Now, I should not get anybody with null. We already have somebody with null, and now once I've set it to 0, I should not get anybody with null, right? There is nobody with null now. So let's check these two. And one with null and without null. There, empty table. So it worked. And I had to do that change because there was nobody with null. So look at this one. I'm saying everybody's commission, whoever was null, is now changed to 0. So it's not so tough. You just have to kind of know what to do. Okay, it says update Miller's hire date to January 25, 1982. So again, we have to do select the employee name so that I know I'm looking at the right one. Oh, the poor guy Miller, I changed it to 0. Now we have to put it, will not have any defined commission. We have to put him back to null now. That's okay. And hire date. We don't know what his hire date was, so we are going to check it. And again, this is just for checking our answers. Will you need to do it in the exam? It depends on you. If you're confident that you don't have to, that's up to you. If you want to double check your answers, that's up to you. I would do it just to see if my answers are correct. But you're getting marks for the update statement. Okay, so here is his name and hire date. Okay, so he was hired on 23rd, 1982. By mistake, whatever it was, we want to update his record. What a big job. We'll update his, and be careful, casting again, okay? We'll update his record. So we'll update, so set the name of the field to change. The new value. Now, how will you give a new value here? When you were inserting, you gave it with quotes and it was fine. But when you do it here, all you do is this. You use the cast function and cast that date that I'm talking about. So January 25, 1982, 1982, January 25. That's how you will set it. Where employee name is Miller. Everybody's, if I don't give a where condition, if I forget to give a where condition, everybody's hire date will change to January 25th. And take his hire date again. So we already know he was January 23rd. Let's see, did it change to 25th now? There it is. So before that, it was 23rd of January, and after it's 25th of January. So it was updated. Let's try more than one fields. We've done quite a bit with one fields. He is now a manager and will not have any defined commission. So update Martin's information. Sorry, Miller's. No, Martin. Okay, so at least we can copy and paste. The guy is called Martin now. So I want to update his information. Again, you can only show his employee name and hire date, or I'll just go with star just because I'm interested in his job description and commission. Those are the two fields I'm interested in. So you can just write that and we'll copy that again. So two things need to be changed for this Martin now. Let's see how do we do the set. Okay, let's do the set. Update the table. Set. Oops. You can keep it in the same line, but you have to give at least one blank, right? Okay, set. His job description changes to manager. We don't know what he was before, but anyway. So text data in quotes. And his commission is set to null. This is an assignment. You're assigning a value, not checking. With checking, we say is null. But when we want to assign something, we just go the assignment statement, capital or small, doesn't matter. If we are keeping it capital, again, for consistency reason. And remember, this is not case sensitive at all. The language is not case sensitive. I am trying to put it in perspective so that you can see it. So here is an example of where you have updated more than one fields. You don't write your set again, please. You write set once and you go commas.
Does it also work to have update table employees, set job description to manager, and commission is null?
No, comma.
It has to be comma?
Yes.
Can you do commission is null instead of commission is
No,
null?
it has to be assignment statement. You're assigning something, so it has to be equal. When you are checking, in the where you say is null, and in the set you say equal to null. It is assigning it, right? So when you check in the select, you use is, and in assignment you use equal. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. You're assigning something. An assignment operator is the equal to operator. We call it equal to operator, but that's the assignment operator. You're not checking something. In the select, in the where condition, you check something. Is the commission null? You're asking a question, is commission null? Here you are saying set the commission to null. Okay, so there you use is, and here you use the assignment operator. Let's check. So the guy, I don't know who he was, I don't know what he was, but whatever. We'll check who he was and what he was. We'll know the answers. Okay, so Martin was a salesman before, and he had a commission of 1400. He has been promoted and he is now a manager, and the commission is set to null. So it's working. So set commas, assignment operators equal. The assignment operator is this sign, which we call equal, but this is the assignment operator. No, spelling is wrong for assignment. Right, so assignment is the equal operator. Okay, so that's an example of more than one sets. So no ands, don't use and. We say and, but we use commas. Try and, it will give you syntax error. Hopefully it will go red squiggly. Okay, not even red squiggly. Let's see what it does then. Oh, we've already changed him, but let's see what happens. Oh, we have an error. Okay, truncated, incorrect, double value manager. Now that's quite a odd kind of error, but anyway, so this select is working, right? So there's Martin, he's already changed to a manager. This statement is not syntactically giving me any red squigglies, and the error is also not very helpful. It says truncated, incorrect, double value manager, because when it looks at and, it says you're going to write a condition and it didn't make sense to it. Not a very helpful error, but it is an error. You can't give an and or an or, nothing. It has to be commas. The syntax is commas. And to answer your question, let's see what it does on the, oh, here it's doing it right here. So we are good. It's giving that red squiggly, right? So when you see an error right here, you know what is wrong. So thankfully it is doing that. So in the select statement, go is and not is not, and here you go assignment operator. Okay, let's go to the next one. Update all records. So that means there is no filtering, no where condition. Add 500 to all commissions. When all records are to be updated, you don't require a where clause. And actually null is also ignored for your information, but let's do it. Okay, now what do I want to do? Everybody's commission has to go up. Okay. Let's do a select. If you want to go just the name and the less you see, the easier it is to figure out the answer. I'm only showing the employee name and the, oops. I'm only showing the employee name and the commission because that's all I want. I'm updating all commissions. You can do a star, nothing stops you. But as I said, the more you see, the more attention you have to pay. So if I have a smaller output, it's easy to do. So here is everybody's name and their commission. Right? Everybody's name and their commission. Now I want to update it and then I want to see, did 500 get added to all commissions? Okay, so what will I do? Let's look at it. We want to update the table. The name of the table, update the table. Right? We want to set. Now you'll say, how do we say add 500 to it? You want to take the old value of commission and add 500 to it. Looks odd in programming. That's not how we usually say it. In English, we say it add 500 to commission. But that's how we do it in programming. And this is how it works. Assignment operator, right-hand side happens first. So the commission is taken, 500 is added to it, and it is put back in commission. So we would never say that when we are talking, we'll say add 500. But when we write it in programming, hopefully you are aware of it. You write, an assignment works like this. It goes from right to left. Assignment always goes right to left. So it picks up the commission field, it adds 500 to it, and it puts it back in the same field. That's how commission works for everybody. So I don't need a where condition. Somewhere I missed it. Commission was double? I can't even remember. Yeah, but is it a double here or double? I think no, it's a single one. Commission normally is a single M. I did a double?
Yeah.
And is commission a double in English? I don't know. We can double check. Or it is double in my code because it's coming up. So it is double. I'm not sure whether grammatically I've written it correctly. Hopefully I have. I shouldn't be making any spelling mistakes if I expect the same of you. Okay, so let's look at everybody's commission before and after. And you will notice something else. So remember, Martin had null. Keep that in mind. So what happens to people, to records that have null? Can you add 500 to null? Null means what? Undefined. So if it is not even defined, how will you add 500 to it? Is my thinking. Okay, let's see if my thinking is right. Okay, so let's look at answers before. Okay, so there is before. So there are a few that have 300, 400, and 500. Most of them are 0, and Martin was null. We just set his commission to null. Remember, we made him a manager, right? Okay, now we are going to update, and let's see what happens to null. Logically, we already did, and let's go to the next one. All zeros change to 500. Martin still stays at null because, as I said, undefined means it doesn't even exist. So it says it doesn't exist. How are you telling me to add 500 to it? So 500 can be added to 0 because 0 is a valid value and it exists, but null remains unchanged. And then I'm assuming there was a 300, there was a 400, there was a 500. The rest were all zeros, and it is looking fine to me. So please keep a note for yourself here. You can say null values are ignored. So we've done a little bit of math here. You've seen your first arithmetic operator, the plus. I've done a little bit of math. Assignment works from right to left. Commission is picked up, 500 is added, put back in the commission field. That's how it works. There is no where condition because it happens for everybody. Okay? Okay, let's go to the next one. Update the first two records, set commission to 0. Oh, sorry, yes.
That didn't show up for me.
The answer?
Yeah, it was still saying like a bunch of zeros and all that. And my code's exactly the same.
Oh, you have an error. The second select is not even working. So it says you're using, oh, okay, here we are. Okay, good. Good that it happened so that I can bring it up. If you don't see something, look in the lower window. You may have an error, right? You were only seeing one table. You were getting a problem here. Now, just because it came up for Matt, it's good. Remember this set statement that I was talking about? This set safe updates? Try to remove it and then run. If you don't have, did you remove it? That's what it is saying. This statement, if not present, will create problems in your updates unless you, but you haven't removed it, right? That's what means by set safe updates. If I didn't say safe updates, it wouldn't let me to update anything, but your first 4 update statements are working. So that's what it says. You are using save update mode and you try to update a. Okay, so did you make any changes to your preferences? Couldn't that, right? We didn't do it because the preferences should be something there in tools. So it's not here. So let's go to where it's database. There is a preferences tab. Go to edit, latest preferences. I don't think you must have done it, otherwise it shouldn't be. So you are your no, you have to set it to say because you already said set is going to save updates to 0. That should have done it. So you are not behaving, and if there was some problem, then it wouldn't have done any of these set statements. Okay, I look at it. Just comment it out and find out the reason. Now, the save updates is equal to 0 is set, and I'll just show you where else you can do it. I mean, I don't even bother to go to preferences because, as I said, I set my own environment. But if you want to look at this set statement also occurs under edit, preferences, and under, where is it? Query editor, maybe? I don't know. No, not in query editor. Somewhere here it does. Oh, here. See, notice safe updates, rejects updates and delete. So though it's on here, but because I've set my environment properly there, I'm okay. So you don't have to bother about the preferences of the server, or if you're using somebody else's machine, which you won't. But anyway, so therefore I use set statements. But another way, if you did not write that set statement, if you want to remove line number 11, then uncheck this. So you're saying, I'm okay, I know what I'm doing is what you're trying to tell me. Right? So if you check it here, it says rejects updates and deletes. But I don't want to reject updates and deletes. I want you to accept them. So I said set updates is equal to 0. But here is another place you could have done it. And that's another way of showing you that, you know what, I don't even bother how the environment is. I set the environment for my own code. And you can't control the environment on a server. How can you control it? So you do it yourself. So even if it is on here, it shouldn't matter at all because I've set it to this, to updates to 0. But removing this or writing this statement are the same. So here are your preferences. Just because it came up, go and look at them when you have some time. But the problem is, why is Maths not working? Because if this was absent, let me comment it out, right? So now my restrictions are on. Let me save it. And let me try it. Okay, something is not working properly. It's coming from the cache memory. Let's wait for updates and see what happens. I'll have to close it and open it again. It's taken my environment has been set once I ran that. It's not saying anything. And that's why I'm kind of saying, why is Maths not working? It was working till now. So I'm not sure. We'll have to, I don't know. I can look at it and see. I'm okay now because this has been done. I'll have to close it and do it again and then set the preferences and I should be okay. It's overridden my preferences. So I never bother. I always set my own environment. But I don't know what's happening with Maths. His 5 updates worked, and now the last update is giving a problem, which is very, very, very odd, right? Really odd. Either it behaves or it doesn't. Like it has to behave one way consistently. I'll have to look at it. Why is yours creating a problem? And why is mine creating a problem? It's in the cache or something. It's already taken it. Can't do much about it. Now it's what it is. I'll have to close it. And if I open it again, I may have an error, but I won't waste your time right now. I'll do that checking myself. Okay, let's come to this one now. Now, again, I must point out, I say the update the first 2 records. But will the first 2 records be always the same? There is no guarantee. But writing the statement, if we just want to write the statement, we'll write it. We'll say select star so that I can show you the limit. Okay. That's the only thing I haven't done. So what am I saying? I just want to see the first 2 records. So remember how we said limit? We used limit. And in select, you can say 0, 2. You can. 0 is default. So these are the first 2 records. And the first 2 records have 500 and 500 as commission. Now I want to update them. Very similar, except of course we go update, we go table employee, and there is one major difference too. What do? We set the commission to 0. And here you can't say 0. You have to only say limit to. 0 is not allowed. See, if I go 0, I should get a red squiggly. So in the syntax of update, you cannot start from anywhere. You can only do the first whatever. Offset is not allowed. You cannot use offset in updates. Cannot have an offset. You cannot. Just for your information. So this syntax is a little different. Here you can and cannot. Both ways are allowed, but here you can't even put an offset. So now the zeros should go, the 500 should go to 0. So I'll take this again and I'll show it to you again. So Kings and Blake. Most of the times we are okay. The way you've inserted is how it is kept. But if you read the manual and if you kind of read about, oh, are the records always in the same order? There is no guarantee. But there it is. So this was the 2 records before. They got updated and they are this now. So it is working. So that's your limit. So we've done a set. We've done more than one sets. We've done where. We've done it without the where. And we've done a limit. So that's the syntax of update. Again, this is not the end. But the best thing about update is all the where things that you've learned in your select clauses will work here. There's nothing new. Where works the same way, right? Where works the same way. So all that you learned in where, whether it was in, not in, ors, ands, everything that you've learned in the where condition will work here also. Because where doesn't change. The filtering doesn't change. So I don't have to repeat all that. We did so many examples in select and we did it with so many different ways. Exact match, inexact match, wildcard characters, in, not in, ors, ands, relational operators. All those will also work here. Your where conditions is just a where condition. So what you had to do was basically concentrate on which table to update, what to set. The where conditions, I'm not repeating them. They can be as complex as what you've done and they can be as simple as where name is equal to Martin. You know what I mean? You could have anything. Okay, lastly, now let us look at delete. So we know how to update our records. Okay, now let's see if you want to delete some records. So another option of update is you delete and then add a new one, which is a poor solution. Why would you first delete all the records and then add the new records when you only had to change maybe the commission from 500 to 0 or maybe Martin from salesman to manager? Doesn't make sense. Why would you do so much work to do something that you can do in updates? So use updates where needed. Don't go, oh, I'll delete this record and I'll add it again. I'll insert it again. Don't do that. Okay, it says delete. Here is the format. Delete from table name. Where condition is optional and limit is also optional. And again, limit only has how many, doesn't have an offset. Adams has left the company, delete his record. So again, how will I know it was deleted? I'll go select. We'll go employee name. Again, delete doesn't have an output, okay? It does a job. Matt, for the time being, just comment out what was not working and then I'll look at it afterwards. Otherwise, you won't be able to check the others. Okay, so Adam has left the company. Okay, so do we have an Adam right now? Uh-oh. Adams, okay, see? So that was an exact match. Okay, do we have an Adams right now? Oh, there he is. Okay, so we do have an Adams. Okay, now we want to delete his record. So the syntax is delete from table name. And whom do you want to delete? We want to delete this guy. There is no there's no limit or anything. I'm just giving a condition. You'll say, can I delete all the records? Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute. Of course, you can delete all the records. So dropping a table means delete everything and remove its definition. Deleting means only deleting the records. Now there should be no guy called Adams. We should have an empty table. Uh-oh. Spelling is wrong somewhere. There it is. It says the table doesn't exist. There we are. There is no Adams. He's gone. So it got deleted. Right? So delete is simple, much less complex than select and update, because all it is saying is delete. So here is one with the where condition. There is a where condition. I haven't done a limit yet, but there is a where condition. Delete the records of all employees who joined the company in 1982. Okay, so let's find out who joined in 1982. So now we'll use, just because we have an easy one, I'll use the year function. I don't have to then write cast and everything. If the hire date was 1982, these are the guys who were hired in 82, right? Now I want to delete them, all of them. And then we will look them up again. Definitely it will be an empty set. Okay, so let's delete from the name of the table. Everybody who was employed in 1982. Again, the selects are written to double check the answer, right? So people who were hired in 1982, those are the people who were hired in 1982. Let's look who all were hired. Okay, so Scott and Miller were hired. And let's now delete them. And then see people who were hired in 1982. Should be an empty record. There it is an empty. Everybody in 1982 got deleted. It proves, right? Now you can't run it again to see it because they're already deleted. But there were two people. Scott and Miller were employed in 1982. You deleted their records. And now you said, show it to me again. And you have an empty table. So it works. Again, we don't have to worry about the where. All that you've learned in where still holds. You could have a simple condition, a compound condition, exact match, inexact match. Everything that you've learned still holds. Therefore, I did more selects today with you. Because the where condition, I wanted to show you different where conditions. The rest, update and delete, are really simple. Delete the first 5 records. Okay, let's look at the first 5 records. So let's do, we don't know how many. So select star from the table name. Hopefully I have something left. I've deleted the 1982. There were only 2 of them. Again, here you can use 0,5. I'm just doing it so that I can bring your attention to it. That you can use an offset. So these are the first 5 guys in my table. Okay, so Kings, Blake, Clark, Johns, and Martin. I don't know who the 6th is. We could always say, show me all 6, but I mean, you don't have to do it. You just say, give me all of them. Here, let's see. Let's see all of them. So here are all of them. So we definitely have more than 5. So once I delete the first 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I should start with Ellen, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 should be left. Okay, let's delete them. Okay, so the delete statement doesn't change. No offset again. Delete from the table. There is no where condition here, but there is a limit of the first 5. No offset allowed. Keep in mind, we cannot do an offset. We can only use limit. So the first 5 records will be deleted, and then let's again do a select. Right, so let's do these 3. Okay, so these are the guys, all of them, right? And I deleted the first 5. I'm left with the last 6. So works, limit works. Right, limit works. And lastly, delete all the records. So this is where I kept it to the last, because once they are gone, they're gone. So, and the example is no condition at all. There, nowhere means everything gets deleted. There is no filtering. The whole table is difference between dropping a table and deleting records. Drop table will drop it completely. Gone. There is no table by that name. When we say drop if exists table name, the whole table is gone. It doesn't even exist anymore. But if I say delete from table employee, I'm only deleting the records. The table still stays. It's just an empty table. So try that now. You should have an empty table after this. The table should be empty, right? So let's try it. So we still have 6 records. Notice we still have 6 records. So now once I do a delete from, there is my table. Gone. So the record exists, the table exists because I saw a display. It didn't say the table does not exist. Dropping is different. So the table is there, but there are no records. So that's why I say beware. You don't have to write bewares in your assignments for me. This is for you, right? So if there is no where condition, there is no filtering. If there is no filtering, everything gets deleted. Okay, so you have learned a few new things today. You've learned how to use the date field. And again, I mentioned when you enter the date values in insert, it catches errors. But when you do selections and you give an invalid date, it just gives you an empty table. I don't have an answer for it. Why did they behave? Why is it behaving differently? It would be nice to see an error when you're trying to do something with an invalid date in a select, but it doesn't work. So if you insert invalid dates, it comes up with errors. When you do selections with invalid dates, it doesn't give you an error. It just comes up with an empty table. It ignores it. Why should it ignore it? I have no clue, right? Plus, I'm mentioning again, I haven't done different where clauses in update or delete for the simple reason that they don't change from the select. So the aim in update and delete was not to teach you the where clauses. It was just to show you how to update and delete. We've learned quite a few of where clauses in our select statements. We've done quite a few select statements. I think we did 13, 14 the other day. You did assignments, and there are again more than 20, 25 here in its different forms. So your job now is to thoroughly do selects, updates, and deletes. And there is an assignment. I want to first look at it that it's right in the sense, I mean, before I post it, I want to double check everything is okay. Plus, last week I found out that the speed in which various students work in this class is different. So some people were able to finish it in half hour, and some people were still sitting and had not finished it till the 3 hours were done. So for students which are done and finished, they're kind of wasting their time. You know what I mean? Like they may come up with saying, oh, you're wasting my time. Like I was done in half hour. But according to me, I have to go with a time limit that works for everybody. So what I'm thinking is that instead of giving you in-class assignments, you can start doing them in class if you have, say, half hour or 1 hour left, but then you take them home and finish them by midnight of that day. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, and I won't devote 3 hours to it. I'm saving my time and your time, but I'll give you some time to look at it and discuss it with me, say half hour in a class, and then you take it home and finish it by midnight of that day or the next class, whatever works. We'll see how it works. That's what I'm thinking, just because students were very different in their speeds, and that way I'll do more work. So I'll put this up on Blackboard, right? Next week, on Friday, either if I post the assignment today, you'll see an announcement. So you are doing it at home. I don't care then. Everybody can do it. Whoever was absent or not absent really doesn't matter to me. And then next week, I'll do a new topic. That will give me time to do a new topic, right?
So tonight, if you post the assignment, we have to hand it in by midnight?
that depends on you. Usually when it's an in-class, I say you're done and finished. But then some of you work and then some of you have classes and it kind of becomes difficult. So I'll try to do, if I give it on a Monday, I'll ask for it on a Friday. If I give it on a Friday, I'll ask it on a Monday. That way you get 2-3 days, which is good enough, right? I have to be fair. If I do it in class and I'm giving you 3 hours, then it's done. But if I'm giving it to take you home, then you have your own other commitments also. So then I have to be conscious of that. So let me look at the assignment. The assignment is ready, but I haven't posted it. I will, if I post it today, the announcement, whenever I post it, the announcement will come up on Blackboard. You don't have to keep checking it. But once it is posted, most probably it will come in, its due date will be Friday. And I'll try to post it either today or tomorrow for sure. Okay. And it will be on updates and deletes. That's the new thing we've done. Okay, it should be ready. And then I'll do something new on Friday. Please be aware that your midterm exam is next week. You have to remember that we are doing a condensed course. So our class number is 5th today, right? We are on class number 5 today. So Monday is the 7th week. So if everything goes well, you may have it on Monday. If Friday goes well, everything goes well, it will be on Monday. Depends on how much I'm able to finish. Okay, I'll put this back on Blackboard. Any questions for me before you leave? So give it a go again, right? Of course, you listen to me, you do it with me, you get problems or you don't understand, give it a go again, try to do these again. And your assignment will help you to reinforce what you've learned in class. And you are kind of prepping for the midterm also. If you are doing your assignments, you are prepping. I may ask you something extra here or there, a little bit, but of course, there will always be one dicey question in the exam where you have to put a little bit of brains. But if you have practiced enough, you've done your assignments, you should be good. That is your review. Okay. I'll put this on Blackboard and then assignment. Hopefully I'll put it up today after once I'm finished. I don't have anything to do. It's just that I get tired. I just need a little break and then I'll do it. So on Blackboard. So we are done for today. This class has been recorded.